So since Dale's bio is going to be coming out throughout the evening, and as you read his absolutely beautiful book, I'd like to let you know a little bit about Dean, who's going to be on stage in just a little while. So he is a diehard Red Sox fan. And Dean, don't shoot the messenger. Dean grew up rooting against the Yankees and Mets in Andover, Massachusetts. He attended Phillips Academy and the University of Pennsylvania, and since 2006, he's worked at Major League Baseball, where he currently serves as a senior director of sponsored content. Dean lives in Port Washington with his wife, Beth, an employment lawyer from Dix Hills who serves as a senior director of global employee relations at Tiffany & Company. Dean and Beth have a 4-year-old daughter, Haley, a 2-year-old son, Benji, a 7-year-old female pit bull named Brian, and a 7-year-old male beagle mix named Lenny. So he's very busy, and we're really grateful that he's going to be here tonight as well. But for now, please help me welcome to the Port Washington Public Library, Dale Berra.
Okay, thank you all for having me. I'm just going to read a prepared little speech that I have for you guys tonight. Talk a little bit about myself. I've been answering questions for the last week, and 95% of which have been about my dad, obviously. Everybody's interested in him, what it was like being his son, all that stuff. But tonight you're going to have to endure listening about me a little bit. So, and then you can ask me questions about that. Okay. So, here I go. I grew up in Montclair, New Jersey as a kid in the late 60s and 70s. Times were most assuredly different than they are now. It was an era when you got up in the morning, you played sports all day long, you climbed trees, you swam, you dug tunnels and drank out of garden hoses, you dug up worms, and you were never bored. You'd come home for dinner, then you'd go out and play wiffle ball or tag until the street lights came on. And if it rained, we'd watch monster movies. And don't ever challenge the Berra boys about monster trivia, that will crush you. One obvious difference between me and the other kids was my dad was one of the greatest catchers in Major League history. And his name was Lorenzo Pietro Berra, or Yogi Berra. He grew up on the Italian hill of St. Louis, Missouri, the son of Italian immigrants. He didn't speak English until he was 10. He quit school after the 8th grade and went to work to provide for his family. Shortly after Pearl Harbor, he joined the military, and he found himself under enemy fire while storming the beaches of Normandy during D-Day. He has the scar on his knuckle of an enemy shell that grazed him, and he never spoke about it. He became a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer, one of the most quoted and revered men in America, and was awarded our nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Other than that, he was just a normal guy. Was I a privileged kid growing up in a household with an American icon as a father? Absolutely. Did I know it? Absolutely not. How didn't I? I'm not sure. You'd think playing catch with Mickey Mantle or Tom Seaver would tell you something. But I can truly say my brothers and I did not feel special. That was because of two people, my mom and my dad, both of whom didn't think they were special or better than anyone else. They treated the dry cleaner and the landscaper exactly the same way as a corporate CEO, with respect and importance. It was the way I was raised. Respect elders, respect people, respect all religions and races. For me, it was 3 sports a year, 3 sports year-round. My dad was a very strong advocate of playing multiple sports. My favorite was hockey. My dad would get up with me at 5 a.m. all winter long and take me to hockey practice. I'll tell you a story about how important different sports was to my dad. At the Yogi Berra Museum, we had a Little League symposium where Little League fathers would ask me and Dad about playing sports and playing Little League. So one of the fathers got up and said, "Mr. Berra, My son just played 75 Little League games between spring and summer. What can he do this fall to get better? And my dad, this guy, thinking my dad would say, go rent a private coach or go rent batting cages, my dad said, play soccer. And the father's like, soccer? And he said, absolutely, it'll be better for your agility. It'll be better for your coordination. It'll make you a better athlete. It'll give you a better jump on ground balls. You'll become a better baseball player. Play soccer. By high school, I was playing 3 sports seriously, and I excelled at all 3. I was first team All-State in 3 different sports and earned 11 varsity letters at Montclair High School. I had 50 high school football scholarships. I could have gone anywhere to play ice hockey, but I knew I was going to be a ball player. My prowess in baseball was becoming obvious. Dad was the manager of the New York Mets at the time, 1975. He was privy to scouting reports, and it was projected that I was going to be a first-round draft choice. And in June of 1975, I was the 20th pick in the nation and the first-round draft pick by the Pittsburgh Pirates. So the day after I graduated high school, I got in my car, and drove to Niagara Falls, New York to start my minor league career. I knew, being Yogi's son, every minor league town I visited was going to ask me the same question: did your dad teach you how to play baseball? Well, I can answer that. When he drove up the driveway after managing a game, if I asked him to play catch with me, he'd say, that's what you got brothers for. Besides, he had no clue how to teach what he did. His ability to play this game was so innate and so instinctual, he had no idea what he was doing. He was completely a natural, no different than Wayne Gretzky, no different than Michael Jordan, who can't teach what they do either because they see the game 3-4 steps ahead than the rest of us. See it and hit it, he'd say. Yeah, that was easy for a guy who hit third in the Yankee lineup in 1947 in front of DiMaggio at 22 years old. In 1950, my dad had 597 at-bats, hit 28 home runs, drove in 124 runs, and hit 322. While accumulating those stats, the man struck out 12 times all year. Come on. I struck out, on a bad week, I'd strike out 12 times in a week. 5 times he hit more home runs than he had strikeouts for the year. Now that's just flat out nuts. He was the most feared clutch hitter in the American League. That's right, more feared by opposing pitchers than Ted Williams and Mickey Mantle. Now, how do I know that? Because when I was playing, the opposing team's pitching coaches would come up to me and say, your dad, we were scared to death of him. We had no idea how to pitch him. If we threw him outside, he hit it to left field. If we threw it in the dirt, he hit it over the dugout. We had no idea how to pitch him. My dad always said, they say I'm a bad ball hitter, but don't throw it down the middle either. How did he do that? He had supreme confidence. He refused to acknowledge when he was in a slump. He'd say, I'm just not getting any hits. When he went to the plate with men in scoring position, his thoughts were, the pitcher is in trouble. He has to throw the ball over the plate. He's the guy who's nervous, not me. If he made an out, he'd say the pitcher was lucky. He'd come back to the bench. I had good stuff, huh, Yogi? Lucky. I'll get him next time. His stats bore it out. From the 7th inning on, with the game on the line, he hit 400 for his career. No one's done that since. Now compare that to me facing Don Sutton for the first time in my career. His curveball starts behind my left ear, It breaks down and away on the outside corner black to my knees. And I'm thinking, get this guy away from me. A little different mindset. Anyway, after I was drafted and went to the minor leagues, I led every minor league team I'm on in home runs and RBIs. I jumped the entire Pittsburgh Pirate minor league system. And in just 2 years, barely 20, I'm called to the big leagues, playing with Willie Stargell, Dave Parker, Al Oliver, Manny Sanguillen, Bill Madlock. Good God, I'm 20 years old. I'm not even 2 years out of high school, playing with those guys. I have a 10-year major league career. In 1982, I'm the best eighth hitter in the National League, and I lead all shortstops in total bases. 1983, I set a record by being the first eighth hitter in Major League history to lead the league in intentional walks. 19 times I'm given a free pass with men in scoring position. The guys behind me were Mike Schmidt, Steve Garvey, George Foster, Johnny Bench, and Andre Dawson. I got walked more intentionally than those guys did. Not bad company. In 1984, my career should have exploded, but it didn't. I slipped. My stats and overall game regressed. A warning sign? You'd certainly think so, wouldn't you? In the winter of 1982, on New Year's Eve, I gave in to the times. Everyone was doing it. Everyone is suddenly locking themselves in bathrooms. Where is everybody? I come home from playing baseball. I go out with my buddies, and they're always locked in the bathroom. I don't know what's going on. What are you guys doing in there? Don't worry about it, Dale. Don't worry about it. These are all my friends I played high school ball with. These are all my buddies. What are they doing in there? You know what they're doing? They're doing cocaine. I'm a kid who's done nothing but drank a few beers. I've never even tried marijuana. So why would I try cocaine? It's a decision and a regret I have to live with the rest of my life. It took from me the parental and God-given gifts I needed to play baseball at the elite level. Split-second timing, mental geometry on defense. Here's the insane part. My brain did not allow me to recognize that I had a problem. I was all right. I was fine. I never missed games. I never missed buses. I never missed trains. I never missed practice. I never played on it. I wasn't smart enough to know that staying up late and not getting your rest over a couple years' time takes away your reflexes. But that's what addiction is, people. It's mind. It's not always a guy laying in the street with a needle in his arm. It's nice, innocent kids like me who make the mistake of playing Russian roulette with their lives by experimenting with drugs. That's right, innocently experimenting. I'm obsessive and compulsive. I still am. That's a very bad combination. If any of you parents, if there's any out there, have kids that are overachievers and can't get enough of stuff that they love to do, whatever it is, all I can tell you is watch out. Fortunately, my book is a success story, though. You can read about the love story between my mom and dad that my brothers and I saw every day, the lessons in stability, and most important, love for family that they instilled in us. You can read about how my family saved me from myself with a powerful intervention that shot an arrow through my heart, an arrow of love from my family and God that instantaneously freed me from the obsession to do cocaine. No rehab, no treatment, no need. I was never going to do another drug or complicate my life again with alcohol. And I knew it the second I had an intervention with my family. I chose them. That was 27 years ago, almost 3 decades, and I haven't thought of doing a drink or a drug since then. I sincerely hope you enjoy my book. It's filled with great anecdotes, stories, family, and I want to thank you all for having me here. All right, now, go ahead, Gene. Now, come on now.
Yeah.
You know what? I didn't know you were that smart.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, guys, so we're going to start off by giving away a few things. We're going to do a little trivia. So this will be closest to the pin. So if you know the answer, just shout it out, and the person who's closest gets the gift. So Dale already mentioned how many times he was intentionally walked in 1983. Who said it? There you go.
Hey, good retention.
Okay. From
Very good.
From 1982 to 1983, Dale had how many doubles across those 2 seasons? Throw it a number. 42. 42.
Give me the real answer, though.
The answer is 50. Hold on. Oh, okay, you need to give her that hat. All right, so this one is, so Yogi had over 8,000 plate appearances in his career, 8,359. Dale had 2,853. It's also a lot. Who had more strikeouts?
Me.
But it was close. It was close. Dale had 422, and Yogi had 414. So there you go.
Hey, but it took Dad 20 years.
That's right. So across that same span, who had more stolen bases? Wait,
Yeah.
Dale had 32. Yogi had
30.
right, right. Okay, so who was the first person to yell out Dale's name? Who wants to take credit for that? You want the credit? He said he wanted the credit. That's fine. All right, so if you have a hat, then you can't get anything else, and there's more. We're not going to throw these. These are sign balls. Dale, much more valuable. And so let's see here. What is the most amount of times Yogi was intentionally walked in one season? What is the most amount of time? 10. There you go. You got it. Okay. Does anyone know who Dale was named after, besides Dale and me? Boom.
Very good.
That's good. You get a home run derby ball, 2017.
Very good.
Hold on. People are really upset back there. You should give them that ball. Okay, we have another ball. Here. Who had it back there? Okay. That sounds good. How many seasons did Dale play with the Yankees? No, who said 2? Who was that? Okay, he's right. All right, you get an unsigned ball. No, it's this ball signed too. You can have that. And one more ball. Dale, you can ask this question.
What is it?
This is catcher's interference.
Okay. I tied a major league record in 1984 for catcher's interference. Who did I tie? And does anybody know what catcher's interference is, first of all? You know what that is? That's when you hit the catcher's glove with your bat.
Unintentionally.
Unintentionally. You're out if the umpire thinks you're doing it intentionally. But anyway, who did I tie? Same team. Keep going. Nope, same team as Johnny Bench. Pete Rose, that's right.
Did you get it?
Watch out, that's hard.
That's it. If anyone wants the bag, we can ask a question later. And have the bag. So, Dale,
Yes,
you talked about how your father didn't personally teach you the game.
right.
How do you think things would have turned out if he did?
I have no idea. I think it would have been different because by him not teaching us the game, my brothers and I went out and played freely. The only thing my dad taught us was have fun, go out and play. I remember many times I said, Dad, can I go to the game with you today? He says, to do what? Watch? Go out and play in the backyard. He often talked about that father whose son played 75 Little League games. He asked the dad, how many times does your son get up in those games? He said, 3 times. He said, does he play another game after that's done? Father said, no. Dad said, when I was a kid, I played in the sandlot and I got up 100 times every day. That's how you get good. Not getting up 3 times in a Little League game and calling it quits. That's what the kids do today. They wait for the coach to call practice before they go out and play. They go out and play Little League games sponsored by all these people in these great leagues, and they forget about getting up 150 times in one afternoon with just 3 guys playing where you can't use right field and you have an invisible man on first. That's how you get good. Throw the ball against the wall all day long and make believe you're Bud Harrelson. That's what I did. Anyway, Dad didn't teach us. I remember one time I said, Dad, I have to learn to hit the ball to the opposite field. What can you tell me? He said, go watch Cleon Jones. So I think it took the pressure off us, and I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know that that was Dad's plan, that not helping us, by him not personally teaching us, but I've seen what the hands-on instruction and the personal instruction has done to other famous athletes' kids, and it wasn't good. So I think Dad did an amazing job with us.
1975, you were drafted 20th overall by the Pirates, and you were 17, right?
18.
You had just turned 18.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know any other players who were taken 20th overall in the draft over the years?
Do I have no clue?
Okay, so a few names. If anyone can guess in the audience, you get $20. Mike Mussina, taken by the Orioles in 1990. Right? We all know him as a Yankee too. Eric Milton, right? Top Yankee prospect in 96.
Oh, yeah.
CC Sabathia, Indians in 98. You also know him as a Yankee. So your first contract, $50,000, right?
That was my bonus.
That was your bonus.
Right.
And you asked for $100,000.
I asked for $100,000, and the scout, Howie Hake, said to my mom and dad, should I leave now or go back to Pittsburgh and just leave now or later? And my mom was insistent on $100,000. This is it's a kind of a unique story, and it's in the book. When the Pittsburgh Pirate Organization scouts came to my house, my dad was home and my mom was home. It had to be the first time that 2 scouts came over as representatives of the Pittsburgh Pirates with a contract armed to give me $50,000 to sign with them. Had to negotiate with a Hall of Famer and spend the night at the house at the same time. These scouts actually spent the night at my house and ate dinner with us. I mean, it was a weird situation now that I think about it. My dad knew them. They talked about old times, and they talked about, the prospects of my career. My mom said, $100,000, you can sign Dale right now. The scouts went to bed, and then that night, in the middle of the night, I went into my dad's room with my mom about 3 o'clock in the morning and said, Mom, I want to sign for the 50. I don't care. I don't want to go. I want to go away and play ball. That's all I want to do. And Dad said to Mom, let him go. And that was that. So I signed with the Pirates. Yeah. $50,000.
So in last year's draft, 2018 draft, the number 20 pick is a guy named Trevor Larnach, signed with the Twins, $2.6 million signing bonus.
Yeah.
You know, if that number had been thrown out at you,
I think I'd have taken it.
you would have taken it.
I remember my first year in Niagara Falls, $500 a month. That was my salary. $500 a month. I paid $80 a month in rent and lived with 3 other guys. So we had, I think our rent was $25 a person, $26 a person. The next year I went to Charleston, South Carolina, Western Carolina League, just like Bull Durham. We had dirt floors for the clubhouse. We had no trainers. All we did was go out and play ball. I made $525 a month that year. And I skipped AA, went right to AAA, and made the big time, and I was paid $750 a month in AAA.
So there's a guy named Vladimir Guerrero. You probably heard of him, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Hall of Famer.
Right.
So he has a son who's 20 years old. He was just called up April 26th.
Mm-hmm.
And so his dad finished with 1,496 career RBIs. You were called up as a 20-year-old. Your dad finished with 1,430 RBIs. So in terms of that type of legacy we've seen in baseball, there's been a baseball gene. It's something that seems to be pretty evident over the years. Have you had a chance to watch this guy hit?
No,
Guerrero?
I have not.
Yeah.
I knew his dad. Well, obviously, I haven't seen his son.
Okay, check it out. He hasn't homered yet, I don't think. Maybe he has one. So you and Yogi, you're probably the greatest father-son duo in Yankee history. Is that correct?
I'm probably the only one, maybe.
That's right.
That makes us the best.
That's you
doesn't
were
it?
the best.
All right.
Best father-son duo in baseball all time. Who would you give it to?
Us. Why not?
Better than the Bonds.
Better than? No, not better than them.
The Griffeys?
They're pretty good. Yeah,
Okay.
That's right.
The Alous?
Yeah, they're good.
Okay.
I forgot about them. Don't.
So Barry Bonds, when he won his first MVP award with your Pirates in 1990, it was first of 7 MVP awards. He was intentionally walked how many times?
I have no idea.
15.
Is that right?
4 less than you in 1983.
There you go.
How about that? So you played for your dad when he was managing the Yankees in '85
Right.
for 16 games.
That's right.
Right. So they had Mattingly was on that team, Guidry was on that team, Ricky Henderson, Dave Winfield, just pretty stacked team, right?
Yeah.
Finished just behind the Blue Jays. So your dad was fired prematurely, controversially. Is it bittersweet? Is it sweet? Are those at the greatest time of your life? Was that the worst moment of your life? In the greatest time of your life? I mean, how would you?
No, it was a great time. It was a great time in my life. Playing for Dad was tremendous because the players loved him. And obviously, as a player sitting in the back of the bus and on airplanes, I'm privy to players' conversation. Mm-hmm. Many times players talk about what the hell's a manager playing him for? Why are you taking me out for? Here, the conversation with Dad was always, let's win for Yogi. Mattingly would say, come on, guys, we got to keep Yogi. We got to keep Yogi. Let's go. Same with Winfield. Same with Don Baylor. Same with Ron Guidry. So I was privy to that, and it was an honor for me to play for my dad, one of the greatest honors of my life. And he was just such an amazing man, such a good guy, cared so much about the players, could care less about himself. I can tell you, the day he was fired from the Yankees in Chicago, I come back in the clubhouse and there's garbage cans rolling around the floor. I see the lunch spread is all over the floor. I see Ron Guidry crying in his locker. I see Mattingly crying in his locker. I'm saying, what's going on here? I was the last one in. I had no idea. One of the guys said, go in and see your dad. So I opened the manager's office door, and there's Dad, half dressed, looking at me. I'm going, Dad, what happened? He goes, I'm going home. And I said, are you kidding me? I start to cry. I try to console him. Dad, I'm so sorry. He goes, don't console me. I'm going to play golf tomorrow. Don't worry about me. What, are you kidding me? Go out and have fun and play for Billy, just like you did for me. Play for Billy Martin like you did for me. Don't worry about me. So here's a guy who just got fired, could care less that he got fired. The only thing he was worried about was me. That's the way he was when we grew up. That's the way we were raised. When my dad was fired in 1964 from the New York Yankees, my two brothers were in school. And the headmaster called my two brothers in and said, "I have terrible news about your dad." And my brothers go, "Oh my God, what's the matter?" They said he was just fired from the Yankees after the 7th game of the World Series. And my brothers looked at themselves and said, "Is that it? He's okay?" He came home and never mentioned a thing about it. He was so secure with himself. He was so humble, so genuine, he could care less. He's the only man I've ever known who returns who will return somebody saying something bad about him with a compliment. That's how he lived his life. And he taught us that. Whenever somebody from the stands yelled at me, "You'll never be as good as your dad," and I used to say, "Not many will," and I'd give him a thumbs up. Now, they're expecting, this is what they want. They want me to say, "Yeah, screw you," that kind of thing. And when they say, "Not many will," and the thumbs up, all of a sudden they start smiling and they give me a thumbs up. It turns the whole conversation around. That's the way Dad was. One time somebody said about Dad, one of the Met players said that if Gil Hodges had not died, the Met dynasty would have gone on. So they told Dad that one of the players said that about him, because Dad took over for Gil Hodges with the Mets. Brought him to the 7th game of the World Series, by the way, in '73. But anyway, a little derogatory statement. My dad answered that with, "That guy played great for me." That's how he answered that question. So I think that's a great lesson. We had a family business called LTD Enterprises that was, we took care of Dad's best interests. And he would often be asked to be the keynote speaker and to receive this honor and that honor from the Italian-American Committee, the American Legion, the this, the that. All the great balls in New York City wanted to honor Dad. And it was my job with LTD as the front person to go ask Dad, "Dad, so-and-so company, so-and-so organization wants to honor you, and they want you to make a little speech." And Dad would go, "For what? What do they want me for?" And I would say, "Again with this? Every time I come and ask you and tell you that this organization would like to honor you and have you make a speech, you answer me the same way. What do they want me for? Why?" And I would say, "How about this? You're a war hero, a national icon, and you're a Major League Hall of Famer. Is that a good start? How about that?" And he would go, "Oh, okay." That's how humble the man was. He swore he didn't know why they wanted him there. And that's the way he thought of himself, and that's the way he raised us.
When you grew up, you thought of him as a Met first, right?
I didn't think he was a Met first, but I'm one of the biggest regrets. I never got to see the man play. I've only seen him on film.
Right. But do you think of him as a Yankee or as a Met or just both?
I think, well, obviously I know. My whole formative youth was as a Met.
Yeah.
My greatest memories are with the Mets. My greatest memories are going to spring training and taking ground balls with Bud Harrelson and catching major league fly balls off the bat of Ron Swoboda, and I was catching them when I was 8 years old. So I didn't think, that was fun for me. But I've since watched Dad on film many times, and he used to say, "Don't swing so hard. You don't need to swing hard." Then I watched his films. He swung hard.
Oh, yeah.
You know what he did, though? His balance was so incredible that it didn't look like he was swinging hard. But here's this little 5'7", 185-pound guy hitting balls over the 430 wall at Yankee Stadium. So he was an amazing athlete with incredible balance.
So he relied on his instincts, right? You guys grew up in that era where it was all about athletic intelligence, right? Today, everything's numerical. Everything's based in analytics.
Yeah.
Obviously, you mentioned in the book that he's a great gambler, right? So he had a good mind for math, despite his 8th grade education. Very bright guy.
No, he was a mathematician. Don't play gin with him. He knows what's in your hand long before you do.
Right. So, how do you think he would have adjusted to today's game, where everything, there's a metric?
It wouldn't
for
have
everything?
mattered. 2 and 8. He would have still been Wayne Gretzky. He still would have been Michael Jordan. Dad didn't need to have. Dad knew what was coming because it was in his brain. Somehow, Mickey Mantle said to him, "All right, Yogi, you line me up where you want me to play." So this was early in Mantle's career. We had no outfield guy, nobody standing on the steps of the dugout telling guys where to play. My dad used to move Mantle, and he used to move Rizzuto, and he used to move the second baseman, Bobby Richardson or whoever it was. Those are the 3 guys he moved. And Mickey Mantle used to come back to the dugout. Dad would say, "Move over here, move over here." Mantle would move over there. And then all of a sudden he'd have a line drive hit right at him. And Mantle would come back to the dugout and say, "Yogi, how'd you know to move me over there?" And Dad would say, "With 2 strikes and 2 outs, that's where Williams hits the ball." He would know that. He was uncanny with his knowledge. During Don Larson's perfect game, Don Larson didn't shake him off one time. He threw every sign that Dad put down. I mean, have you ever seen a pitcher throw a full game without ever shaking his head?
No.
He never.
Go.
All he did was get a sign and throw the pitch every game, every pitch.
Incredible. So you talked about your dad used to mention to you. There was a couple of quotes. That one, his quote had that fatalistic attitude that you can't change things, so you just move ahead. And another one was, you can't change things that you got no control over. And those are sayings that are well-known mantras of recovery. Do you think he was hinting at something, or he just was that wise?
He's the most quoted man who never said anything. But if you were gonna sit at an event with Dad and expecting some pearl of wisdom or something funny to come out of his mouth, there would be nothing. Nothing would come out. But just when you least expect it, we could be driving to the Hall of Fame, and we're all driving in the car. Dad's driving. Mom says, "Yogi, we're lost, You're supposed to be going east, not west." And Dad would say, "Yeah, I know, but we're making good time." These are the little things he used to say all the time. He used to, I used to say, "Dad, it's not that cold out. What are you putting gloves on for?" He goes, "'Cause of my hands." That's all. Simple question, simple answer. He wouldn't say, he wouldn't elaborate. He wouldn't say like, "Well, it's a little chilly out. I just want to make sure." He would just, "What are you wearing?" "The only reason I'm wearing these gloves is because of my hands." That's all. So that's how he spoke. I think his greatest one for me was, you can't hit and think at the same time. Because that one was apropos. Bill Dickey said to Dad in 1946, "Yogi, think when you go to the plate, will you?" And Dad went up there thinking and struck out, and he came back to the dugout and said, "I can't hit and think at the same time." Now, that is exactly like I was telling you. That's called being in the zone. You don't think and play any sport at the same time. If you do, you'll never be any good. You have to be innate. You have to react. You have to be intuitive. And Dad was the best at that. So he didn't think. He didn't know any. That's why when he taught us how to play the game, he didn't teach us mechanics. He just taught us, see the ball and hit it. That was his philosophy. And have fun. That was it.
Yeah. Interesting. I was going to ask you about that quote exactly. You can't think and hit at the same time.
There you go.
And you said it was the smartest Yogi-ism, but you also said it ain't over till it's over is the greatest.
No, that's a
what
great one.
What was your favorite? Did you have
Well,
maybe one that you never shared with anyone?
Well, there's lots of yogi stories. I mean, he always used to tell the guy, we used to get pizza for the family, and he would say, cut it in 6 slices. I don't think I can eat 8. So, There was one time in New York. There was one time he was in New York. He was with Mayor Lindsay back in the day, way back in the 60s. Mayor Lindsay's wife was there. It was about 100 degrees out. Dad was in like a beautiful white cotton suit or something. Mayor Lindsay's wife said to Dad, "Yogi, you look really calm and cool on this really hot day." And Dad said, "Well, you don't look so hot yourself." Yeah, what did he know? He just talked, whatever came out, came out. Back in 1973, I remember it like clockwork now. Does anybody remember the Streakers? You know what a streaker is? Well, Channel 9 television now. I'm listening to Ralph Kiner. I'm listening to Lindsey Nelson. I'm listening to Bob Murphy. And all of a sudden, the streaker comes on the field. Of course, the camera has to go away. Lindsey Nelson says, "Oh, the streaker slides into second base. Bud Harrelson and Felix Millan right next to him, right next to the person." Of course, there's no camera on it. So me, Larry, and Timmy, we're watching the game on TV. We're all anxious to find out if it's a boy or a girl. We want to know. So Dad comes home. I say, "Dad, that streaker, boy or girl?" He goes, "I couldn't tell. They had a bag over their head." So, you know. So, these are the wonderful things we got to hear growing up.
You want to take some questions from?
Sure, anything you want. Yeah.
Mr. Berra, could you explain what thoughts went through your father's mind after firing by Steinbrenner and he refused to go back for many, many years to Yankee Stadium?
I can tell you the first time my dad was fired by the Yankees, it was by Ralph Houck in 1964. The second time he was fired, it was by George in 1986. Here's the thing. My mom never forgave Ralph Houck, and my dad idolized my mom and everything that she thought. And when George fired Dad and he came home, I don't think he had it in his mind he'd never go back to Yankee Stadium. It's when he got home that my mom said to him, "You're too great. You don't deserve this. You don't deserve to have somebody fire you like that." And she put it in my dad's mind in principle, and my dad respected my mom so much that that principle got in his mind, and he decided, "I'm not going back to Yankee Stadium until this man apologizes to me for firing me." And he stayed with that principle for 12 years or 14. How long did it last?
Yeah, it was from 85 to 99. So
15 years, my gosh,
yeah.
however long that was. Susan Waldman and me,
15.
Susan Waldman and me got together and we said, "You know what? This man's a fish out of water. Stay out of the locker room, away from Yankee Stadium, away from the fellas." So we got him together. We got it so George would come back and apologize. And the second George apologized, Dad went back to Yankee Stadium and it was great. From that time on, his grandkids got to see him in a Yankee uniform again, and the Yankees continued to win, and he went to spring training every year, and it was great.
Yeah.
And he was happy again.
Yeah. And he threw out the first pitch in.
Sure. And the greatest, the most,
after
come on,
DiMaggio died.
you can't make up on Yogi Berra Day. Cone threw a perfect game.
Yeah.
And here's the amazing thing. Yogi Berra Day, on that date, Dad threw the simulated, Larson came to the stadium and threw a simulated pitch to Dad in recognition of the perfect game. And then Cone went out and threw a perfect game that day.
88 pitches.
That's incredible. That's right. 88 pitches.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some amazing similarities there.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
In what ways are you like your dad?
You know, I have an answer for that, don't you? Our similarities are different. No, I wasn't I was a very conventional player. You know, meaning I liked the ball right down the middle. That's where I liked it. You know, the love of the game, for sure. You know, there's only one guy that I've played with, and I've played with some great ones now. I mean, I played with Stargell. I played with Ricky Henderson. I played with Winfield. I played with Griffey Seen. These are Hall of Famers. Willie Stargell was very similar to my dad in everything that he did. The twinkle in his eye. When you met my dad, you weren't in awe. If you met Mantle, many people when they met Mantle or you know, meet an icon like that, they kind of have like their mouth wide open. It's like, oh my gosh, wonderful thing, but still. When you met Dad, he looked at you, and then you smiled, and then you felt better about yourself and the world. Incredibly. And that's the way Willie Stargell was, too. And it was an honor to play with him.
Did your brothers play ball?
We played every sport under the sun. At one time, all three of us were playing professional sports at one time. My brother Timmy was a wide receiver for the Baltimore Colts. He was drafted out of college and made the Baltimore Colts, played 2 years in the NFL. Could have been a great baseball player. He had a football mentality. Dad used to love to go watch him play football. Could care less that he didn't play baseball. My brother Larry would have been a big league catcher if he didn't hurt his knee. Played in the minor leagues for the Mets for a couple of years. But he would have played. He was that good.
What was your mother's influence on you?
What? My mother's influence? She was the, you know, the queen. Dad was the king, but Mom was the boss. You know how that goes. That's exactly what it was like. And their sparkle in their eye for each other till the day they died is what made our family special. Dad would sit at the dining room table, and he would get both ends of the Italian bread, both heels. And you didn't mess with that. Me and Timmy and Larry would fight over the rest of the bread. Dad got the heels. And Mom was the kind of, you know, don't touch Dad's heels now. She took care of him. He was the king, she was the boss. When you wanted money, you go to Mom. Every time, Larry talks about even going to the prom. I need money to buy my data corsage. Dad would go to work. That's what he'd say. Too bad, go ask your mom. You don't get money from me. He made you earn it. And you liked what you got, too. Believe me. If you left your bicycle outside in the rain, it was gone. You don't like it too much, he would say to you. And then I would say, Dad, where's my bike? You left it out in the rain. Apparently you don't want it. You don't like it enough to put it in the garage. I'll keep it for a while. And that's the way he was. And he'd often say, you got a new pair of sneakers or something? If they weren't the kind you like, he'd say, yeah, you're lucky you got them. That's the way we were taught.
Did she cook Italian thing?
She did. Yeah, she did. That Mom was a great cook, but she could cook anything. Go ahead, dear. Absolutely not. He was out. He was out till the day, matter of fact, the day before Dad died, he told me he was out. Dad, let me tell you something. Dad could not, but at the last week of Dad's existence, he couldn't read a clock on a wall. He couldn't see the TV. He couldn't tell you. He knew me, Larry, and Timmy, his three sons, and he could tell you about growing up on Elizabeth Street in St. Louis. But he didn't know what he did 5 minutes ago. But anytime you asked him about Jackie Robinson, no matter what condition he was in, he'd say he was out. What's that?
I knew he grew up with Joe Berra.
Next door neighbors.
Right, and they both ended up in the majors. Joe got hurt and went on to announcing.
Right.
Did Dad ever have a lot of stories about Joe when they were growing up?
No, Joe had the stories about him. Dad and Joe were best friends. That's all there was to that. You know, Dad wasn't the storyteller, Joe was. But Dad always said the first person he ever saw in his life was Joe Garagiola. Other than his parents, I think. Yeah.
Phil Rizzuto visiting your family. I mean, your dad and Phil had a business together, I believe.
Yeah, Rizzuto Berra Bowling Alley.
Right. That must have been a trip when Phil would visit.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
Phil was fantastic.
Yes, great man.
Another stat that I researched, with all the strikeouts in baseball, which gets me upset because I remember your dad was best back control ever. Him and DiMaggio, with their combined strikeouts for their career, Stanton and Judge struck out more in a season than both your dad and DiMaggio for their strikeouts for the entire career.
How about that?
Did you know that?
No, it's an amazing thing, though.
That sounds about right.
It's an amazing thing. Yes, sir. I'm sorry? It's such a hard one. You know,
Where do you draw the
I don't
line?
know what. I don't know what to think anymore about that. I mean, I can't, you know, a guy like Roger Clemens not in the Hall of Fame, I think that's weird to me. You know, even Barry Bonds, I mean, you know,
Yeah, when he was skinny, he was winning MVPs.
yeah, I just don't, it's so part of the year, they just maybe, I don't know whether you should just, you know what, put them in, and then you continue the game now, clean from that now, because they test now, and you can't get away with it now. But back in those days, since basically everybody was doing it, you know, it even started when I was playing. There was guys who were doing. There were guys who were just starting to do it, and I don't know. I wish I could. I can't give a proper answer on that. I just don't know. I think that guys should probably be in. I think.
Yeah, it's hard to draw the line.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Just put in Pete Rose too. Why not?
Yeah.
Put in Pete Rose. Put in Barry Bonds. Put in Clements. These are the greatest players in history. I mean, you know, these guys, they did steroids, but so did everybody else with them. So why not put them in?
Their steroid use didn't diminish what they did before they did steroids.
That's true. And they're hitting off guys who did steroids. So, I mean, you know, they had to even the field a little bit.
That's true.
Correlation is that,
Yeah.
plus what they did later,
Yeah.
they'd still get it.
This guy over here. he
Yes, sir.
I have a quick comment and a quick question. Later in his life, I got to know Phil Linz pretty well.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Every time I saw him, he told me the same story over and over again, the harmonica story.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to check with you to make sure that Phil didn't turn the corner on me and tell me the truth about the harmonica story.
Well, what do you mean? What do you want to know about it? Was it a true story?
That's what I'm curious.
Oh, sure. Yeah. The harmonica story was in 1964. The Yankees had just had a tough a road trip. I think they'd lost like 3 in a row or 8 out of 10 or something in late August or early September. And they had just gotten beat 3 straight by somebody, and they were getting on the team bus, and all of a sudden, Phil Linz, a utility infielder for the Yankees, started to play his harmonica on the back of the bus. And my dad was upset about the losses. So he turned around and said, "Stop playing that harmonica. Quit playing." I don't even want to say what he said in reality. But he said, "Put that harmonica down. Put it away. Put it in your pocket, whatever." And then when Phil Linz said to Mickey Mantle, "What did Yogi say?" Mantle said, "Play it louder." So Phil Linz started playing it louder. And that got Dad mad, and he came back of the bus and he ripped the harmonica away from Linz, took it from him, and slapped it away from him. And from that day on, I think the Yankees won 19 out of 20. And that's the harmonica story.
Yeah, this guy right here. Little guy.
Yeah, little guy. How did my dad? Okay.
Also, someone who has a ball, give it to this kid, please. Okay, good. We're good.
Yogi, when he was a little kid, he always sat with his arms crossed like this and his legs crossed, like a yogi. That was his comfortable position. Every picture you've ever seen of Dad, he's like this. And as a little kid, they didn't have dugouts. They didn't have benches. They sat on the grass. So he would have his legs crossed and his arms crossed, and he would sit like this all the time. And him and Joe Garagiola went to the movies, and they saw a yogi in a movie, an Indian yogi. And he was sitting like this, and Garagiola said, "Hey, Yo, he sits just like you. We're going to call you Yogi now." And that's how he got the name. From watching the movie with a yogi in it, and they said that he said, "Larry, you sit like that yogi there, we'll call you Yogi."
Mm-hmm. And now your daughter is a yogi,
And that's it.
right?
And then what?
Your daughter is a yogi.
And now my daughter's a yogi, yeah.
Was it your daughter who initiated the campaign to get you the presidential freedom?
No, that was my brother Larry's daughter.
Yeah, that was Lindsay, right?
That was a great honor. It was a great honor. He should have got it while he was alive, though,
Yeah.
for sure.
It was close, right? Just a few months after.
Yeah, a few months afterwards.
So Lindsay
Yeah.
was working for Major League Baseball and had the same boss as me at the time when she was campaigning.
Yeah, that's my brother's daughter, Lindsay.
Interestingly enough. Another interesting factoid is that you are not the only person who has a famous relative who significantly impacted a Yankee dynasty in attendance tonight.
Is that right?
That's right. The other person is Sharon, who introduced us earlier, and her cousin is Jeffrey Mayer, who, as you might, who interfered with the home run in Game 1 of the 1996 ALCS
No, that's good.
that helped the Yankees win their first of 4 championships in 5 years. All right, let's hear it for Sharon and Jeffrey. Who else? Do we have any other young people?
You have a question? Go.
Okay, I'm not a baseball person except for the Brooklyn Dodgers when I was a kid. So I really don't know about all that. But here's my question. I always related to your dad's quotes. Because I think just like him. I loved them because I thought they were fabulous. So here's a question though. I was listening to the radio one day driving, and someone said, Yogi Berra said, and made this quote. And I'm not sure I have it right. And you might not even know it. But I looked all over on the internet. I can't find it. Do you know anything like this quote at all? It was brilliant. That's what I read. You don't see what you don't believe, or you can't see what you don't believe. Have you heard that?
I have not, but that would be a good one.
That's brilliant.
That would be one of the quotes where Dad would say, "I never said everything I said." How much time?
It's like 10 past 8, maybe just 1 or 2.
Okay. Couple more, guys.
Did you ever have a magic moment as a player?
Walk off.
A magic moment? You know what? I could be honest with you. My dad's magic moments were world championships and the perfect game. His magic moments were not 3 MVPs, not 18 consecutive all-star games. He was proud of them. But when you asked him to talk about baseball, he would say the perfect game. And he would say 10 world championships as a player. So for me, I kind of learned that way too. And I have many days. I remember the first day I went 4 for 4 in a game. I remember my first grand slam. I remember my first walk-off home run. I remember my first home run against Steve Carlton. I remember my first home run against Roger Clemens. So I remember things, but To me, the greatest honor that I ever received was the day that I went to spring training in 1982, and the honor was not really something you hear about much. But it's when the manager tells you you're going to be the everyday shortstop, and every day you come to the ballpark, you don't have to look at the lineup card. You know you're in it. That's called a regular player. That's called being a regular. And that's a word that's used often in Major League clubhouses. Regulars go out and hit. Everything's for the regular. Extras are the guys who are sitting on the bench. And the extras don't get what the regulars get. The regulars get, you know, do any regulars want a steak sandwich? The extra men get a bologna sandwich. You know, it's just kidding. But that's just the way it is. You know, when you become a regular player, it's a real badge of honor and a real great thing. And 1982, Chuck Tanner said, "You're my shortstop. You're the everyday shortstop. You're going to play every day." So for 3 years, I only missed a handful of games. So that was my greatest thrill.
Yeah. Wrap it up.
Yeah, one more. That's it.
What do you think of the game today?
I don't understand it today. But I was talking earlier, it's for a different reason. Hitting today is a different animal than when I played. When I played, there was maybe 2-3 guys in the entire league that threw over 95 miles an hour. And not even Goose Gossage. Goose Gossage threw 94, threw 95. There was Nolan Ryan, there was J.R. Richard, there was Lee Smith, a young Frank Tanana. That's 4 guys. Now you have 5 or 6 guys on every staff and every team in baseball throwing over 97 miles an hour. And we didn't hit that kind of stuff when I played. When a guy threw 97 miles an hour, your mechanics went out the window. There was no such thing as keep your shoulder in there and keep your hands back and do all that mechanical stuff that you did when you're hitting off a guy throwing 80 miles an hour. When a guy's throwing 97 miles an hour, it's self-preservation. It's, you know, the first thing you do is make sure that it's not coming at you. And the second thing you do is now try to figure out how you're going to hit it without mechanics, because there's no mechanic. There is no such thing as a mechanic that allows you to hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. It's pure instincts and pure reflexes. That's it. Anything you've ever been taught about hitting a baseball off a tee in Little League and all that goes out the window with 100-mile-an-hour fastballs. And now there's guys in the game, you could see 3 pitchers in one day throwing 100 miles an hour. And that's incredible stuff. And I'm foreign to me how they hit that. When I saw, you know, 2 guys in my whole career that threw 100.
All right.
What's that?
Did you ever ride with your dad up Broadway in October?
No, I was too young. Too young for that, unfortunately.
Well, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Dale.
Okay. Where am I going now? Time out there? Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it.